PKing in old school RuneScape has a really steep learning curve. When I started, instead of easing into it, I jumped straight into tribreading at the Chaos Temple. And it was an uphill battle. Can you hit a freeze for one fucking time, you moron? So it got me thinking, could I have made this easier? And more importantly, can I make it easier for some of you, so you don't have to struggle the way I did? After training up a new pure account and experimenting in the rev caves, I think I found one of the easiest ways for a new player to start wilderness PKing. In the beginning, these bots can be pretty frustrating to kill at times.
Fish.
You...
Fish.
This bot.
Fish.
This moron bot, man. But once you've done this for a while, you start to figure out the patterns. He's gonna switch. There we go, yeah. And I just get free off-prayer mage hits. He's out, that's perfect. I'll quickly explain how to kill these bots and why I think it's a great method for new PKers. There are two low-level bots that mainly inhabit the Revenant Caves. A 1 defense bot usually around level 48 to 62, and a tank bot usually between 60 and all the way up to level 80. The 1 defense bot is by far the easiest to kill, but is also less commonly seen. The tank bots on the other hand are everywhere, but killing them takes a little more effort. These are all of the spots that I've actually seen low-level bots in the rev caves. You can mainly find the 1 defense bot at the Power Fiend and Hobgoblin spots, while the more tanky version dominates the higher level Revenants. Both types of bots are at all locations, and it's pretty day-to-day where you find most of one or the other. Let's first take a look at the Hobgoblin spot, as this is probably the easiest and simplest way to get kills. This spot mainly has 1 defense bots, meaning they are very weak to the Granite Maul. This means you often get kills within the first few seconds, making this a great spot to practice with the G-Maul, which I've come to know takes a little time to learn. All you need to do is one-take attacking with the crossbow, and when you see a big XP drop, you send the double G-Maul spec as quickly as possible. Sometimes you don't even need the G-Maul, as the bolt might just kill them by itself. The Maul spec is highly RNG dependent, however, and KOs can easily get away from you, whether that is due to bad luck or just bad play. This is where the weakness of this spot shows itself, as running these bots out of food can be quite difficult. Because of how low level they are, they can quickly get to safety just due to combat level difference, and as this spot is also very close to the exit, you quickly lose 100k from your loot if you don't kill them quick. As this is also below level 30 wilderness, you have to TB them as soon as you see them, and as they all play mage, it's impossible to catch a full TB on them, so even if you don't run out of combat levels, they might still tell you away in the end. The keys are always between 250 and 550k if you get the kill inside the cave, and 100k lower if you get it outside. So it's by no means an insane moneymaker, but if you get the hang of this, you'll get enough kills that you can make 3 or 4 mil an hour depending on luck and efficiency. There are still a lot of tank bots in this location, and even though they are 40 defense, you can still kill them with a G-Maul. They will tank it quite often, however, so you're typically setting yourself up for an outlast. Since combat level difference is less of an issue with these bots, it is still very possible to kill them. But it can be quite frustrating, as you often end up spending a lot of time doing sweaty one-tick bolts for the bot just to escape anyway. Luckily, there is another spot that is perfect for killing this type of bot. The Demon and Cyclops spot to the north separates itself from the other spots by being the only one above level 30 wilderness, meaning it is the only spot where you can reliably get a full TB on the bots. Just equip your mage robes but not your staff and send the TB on prayer range. If it splashes, the bot's prayer clients sometimes read it and switches their prayers, but most of the time this will work out as intended. This gives you a full 5 minutes to kill the bot, which allows for plenty of mistakes and mishaps while still being able to close the kill in the end. Another big advantage of this spot is how far away from the cave exit it is. This means you can still run the bot out of food before reaching the exit, yielding the extra 100k loot most of the time, as long as you're refreezing with decent efficiency. Refreezing is exactly what this is great for practicing. While the south spot is great for KO practice, the north spot is more about consistently dealing damage and refreezing. The bots usually do decent prayers and run exactly when freeze timers expires, but at the same time they are extremely predictable, as they will never anti-PK and always runs the same way to escape. This gives newbie PKers an extremely safe way to practice one-ticking attacks and learning when freeze timers expire by intuition. The obvious disadvantage at this spot is that KOs are much harder to come by, although you can still send a bunch of Gmauls and hope for some RNG. You will still run into the 1 defense spots for some occasional Gmaul dopamine, so Gmaul practice is just as relevant here, it's just not as effective. The Paraffin spot right to the south also has a decent amount of 1 defense spots, so it's often worth checking both spots when PKing here. The high wilderness level does mean that Zergs and med levels can attack you here, which is almost certainly a death certificate. But recording for this video I didn't get caught by a single high level. To work around this issue you can also just hop around on a main account to scout for the low levels, decreasing the risk significantly. All in all, this is probably the best spot I've yet found in terms of learning basic PK and wilderness mechanics with almost no risk at all. Also, both the South Hobgoblin and North Demon spot have bots in almost every world, and while that is depressing for the overall state of the game, it is good news for noobs learning to PK, so you don't have to spend 10 hours hopping around Edgeville Dungeon to find a noob you can prey on. If you do decide to try this out, have a little patience with it, and accept that you'll make some mistakes in the beginning. There's nothing more embarrassing than being outplayed by a bot, but you have to just laugh it off and go again. I entangled the Revenant. What? The bot should have killed me. The bot should have killed me there. Point is, mistakes will happen, but if you give it a little time, you will get the hang of it and begin getting kills consistently. There's a few things I'd like to address before finishing off. First of all, I am not advising you to only kill bots. Bots are great to practice on, but because of how predictable they are nothing like fighting real players, and killing them over and over becomes quite boring the more you do it. Bring a risk you aren't too afraid to lose, and attack everything you believe you can realistically kill. You'll quickly find that pures and the Revenant games aren't that scary, and are often easier to kill than the bots. I'll show many examples of that in my next video. Secondly, bot mechanics are constantly changing. One day you'll find 1 defense bots on literally every world, but then they might be gone the day after. Most likely, the way the bots behaved when I recorded this video is completely different from today. Suddenly, they might have better prayers, they might have moved to a different spot, or if you're lucky, you'll find one being totally AFK every once in a while. Just try out the different spots and figure out what works best. Lastly, I've been using a 50 attack pure around level 70 combat, but I'm sure you can make this work with all types of pure builds from level 60 to 85. Even if you're too weak to kill the tanks or too high level to attack the 1 defense bots, there are so many of both types that it honestly shouldn't be an issue. If you're 60 attack, try it out with the DDS, and if you're only mage in range, I'm sure that'll work as well. I would suggest bringing at least 1 weapon with a spec bar though, as the bot's prayer clients might make it difficult to get your spec off prayer if you can't one-tick it. It was ugly, and it was like a grandmother Gmaul spec. That's really all there is to it. I hope this breakdown helped, and if you're new to PKing, I genuinely think this is a great place to start. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. And once killing bots starts to feel easy, you'll realize you've already learned a lot. So let's roll a few clips. Oh no, I might have lost him here. I finished that completely, and it's because it's a bot, he still just ran with it. Yeah, that big of a bolt is almost always a kill. I mean, this is just so easy. Beautiful. Blaze it for the 420k. Beautiful. He dropped his leather body. Does that mean he has... That might mean he has a lot of loot, actually. He really did. Almost 700k. That has to be the biggest loot I've seen from one of these bots. By far. I kill him with the entangle. Entangle KO? Yep. Beautiful. Yeah, there's just nothing he can do. Like a level 53. yeah, that's just unfair. Gmall feels kinda unfair in these pure brackets, to be honest. Okay, no Gmall needed. That has to be the easiest and quickest bot kill I've had yet. That was literally just an entangle and a bolt, and he died. We take those, we take those. Now, that's all for the PKing side of things. I will be uploading another video in a few days that goes in a little more depth with this pure account, so stay tuned for that. But I have a little promise I made from my last video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a little cooking. So I told you if my last video got 20 likes, I would show you how to cook fusilli. And it did. So here we are in the Lumbridge kitchen, because we want to get the extra success chance from the range. Now, in order to cook fusilli, you will need level 10 cooking, as we see here. But fortunately, it does have lower cooking requirements than the other pasta types. And aside from the level 10 cooking, you will also need to have done the subscribe to Fusilli quest. But as you can see here, it's a very easy quest. It's essentially just one click, so I'm assuming you have all done that. In order to cook fusilli, we first need to use a bowl on a sink. So we get a bowl of water. We then cook the bowl of water on a range, which gives us the bowl of hot water. We then use the fusilli on the bowl of hot water. And when we do that, we have to wait for 10 minutes. And after the 10 minutes has gone, we now have cooked fusilli. Now, some of you might be wondering, isn't it boring to just eat fusilli with nothing on top? And you're right, it is pretty boring. The only issue is that I don't have the cooking level to actually cook a dish with fusilli. And in order to get that cooking level, I will need to cook 1547 fusilli. So I just can't be bothered to do that. But if you do want to see me get the level, please leave a like on the video. And if it hits 30 likes, I'll get the cooking level to make fusilli with tomato and basil.